It was a bright Saturday afternoon in the bustling city of Melbourne. The sunlight filtered gently through the tall glass windows of Café Verona, a popular restaurant known for its charm and fine dining. The air smelled of freshly brewed coffee and baked pastries. The place was full of life, friends laughing, couples whispering, waiters rushing from table to table. Amid this warmth sat Clara Morgan, a 32-year-old corporate executive, dressed in an elegant white blazer and silver heels, her long auburn hair perfectly straightened, her demeanor calm but commanding. She was the kind of woman who looked like she had everything together: confidence, success, and class. But sometimes people who look the most perfect forget what kindness feels like. Today, Clara had come to the cafe for a lunch meeting with a potential client. She was anxious to make a good impression. She had been running late because of traffic, and her frustration showed in her sharp tone and impatient tapping fingers. A young waiter, Ethan Parker, around 24 years old, approached her table nervously. He had messy brown hair, a kind face, and slightly trembling hands. It was his first week on the job, and he was trying hard to stay calm. He smiled politely and asked for her order, but Clara barely looked at him. She ordered quickly, irritated that he was asking her to repeat details. Ethan nodded, wrote it down carefully, and hurried away. Minutes later, as the cafe buzzed with chatter, Ethan returned with her order: a bowl of creamy pasta and a glass of sparkling water. But as he placed the plate on the table, his hand slipped slightly, and in an instant the sauce splattered across the table and onto Clara's pristine white blazer. The cafe went silent for a moment. Everyone turned to look. Clara froze, her designer clothes, her reputation, her polished image all ruined in one messy mistake. Her face turned red with anger as she stood up sharply, her voice echoing through the restaurant. "How careless can you be? Do you even know how to do your job?" she snapped. Ethan's face flushed with embarrassment, his voice trembling as he apologized, but she didn't stop. "You people think saying sorry fixes everything. This is expensive clothing. I have an important meeting, and you've ruined my day." Her words sliced through the quiet room. Other diners watched in discomfort. Ethan lowered his gaze, humiliated, trying to clean the table quickly. Tears welled in his eyes, but he didn't dare look up. If you believe that kindness and second chances can change lives, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Soul of Light. Because stories like this remind us that compassion still matters. Moments later, the cafe manager hurried over an older man with calm, wise eyes. His name was Mr. Jonathan Wells, the owner of Café Verona. He gently asked what had happened, and Clara, still fuming, pointed at Ethan. "This waiter is careless. He shouldn't even be working here." Jonathan nodded slowly, listening without interrupting. He then turned to Ethan, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Take a short break, son. I'll handle this." Ethan nodded and walked away quietly, shoulders slumped. Clara crossed her arms, expecting the manager to apologize profusely or offer compensation. Instead, Jonathan looked at her and spoke in a calm voice that silenced the tension around them. "Ma'am," he said softly, "I'm truly sorry for the inconvenience, but I'd like to tell you something about this young man before you judge him." Clara frowned but said nothing. Jonathan continued, "Ethan lost his mother 2 weeks ago. He took this job so he could take care of his younger sister. He hasn't slept much. He's new, but he tries harder than anyone I know. He's not careless, he's just tired, grieving, and still learning." The words hit Clara like a cold wave. Her anger began to crumble, replaced by shame and guilt. The cafe went silent again. She looked toward the kitchen, where Ethan stood quietly, wiping his tears behind the counter. She realized she hadn't just scolded him, she had humiliated a struggling young man in front of strangers. She wanted to say something, but the damage was already done. Jonathan added gently, "Sometimes people are fighting battles we know nothing about. A small mistake doesn't define who they are." Clara left the cafe that day without finishing her meal. The meeting she had planned didn't happen. All she could think about was the look in Ethan's eyes, the pain, the helplessness, the quiet shame. That night she sat alone in her apartment, replaying the moment in her mind over and over. For years she had prided herself on her discipline and control, but she realized she had lost her empathy somewhere along the way. The next morning she decided to make things right. She went back to Cafe Verona. Ethan was there again, quietly arranging chairs before customers arrived. When he saw her, he hesitated, clearly nervous. Clara approached slowly, holding a small white gift bag. Her voice trembled as she spoke. "Ethan, I came to say I'm sorry. I was wrong yesterday." He looked surprised but said nothing. She continued, "You didn't deserve that. I let my stress turn into cruelty. I'm truly sorry." She handed him the bag. Inside was a brand new blazer, a handwritten apology card, and a note that read, "Thank you for your patience. Keep going, you're stronger than you think." Ethan smiled faintly for the first time, his eyes softening. He didn't say much, but his expression said everything. Jonathan, the cafe owner, stood nearby, watching with quiet satisfaction. He smiled and said, "Sometimes the best lessons are learned the hard way for both sides." From that day on, Clara became a regular at Cafe Verona, not for business meetings, but for quiet reflection. She often helped Ethan during busy hours, sometimes even serving coffee herself, just to feel human again. People began to notice a change in her, her tone softer, her eyes kinder. She learned that power and success mean nothing if you lose the ability to understand another person's pain. Months later, on a sunny afternoon, Clara received a call from Jonathan. "Ethan just got accepted into culinary school," he said with pride. "He worked hard for it." Clara's eyes filled with tears. She smiled and whispered, "He deserves it." That day she visited the cafe one last time before Ethan left for school. She found him in the back preparing coffee. She congratulated him warmly and wished him luck. Ethan looked at her and said softly, "Thank you for seeing me differently." Clara walked out into the daylight with a smile. The same sunlight that once made her impatient now felt warm and peaceful. She realized that forgiveness, whether giving or receiving, could transform people in ways success never could. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Soul of Light. Every act of kindness, no matter how small, creates ripples that change the world. Special request: comment below. Kindness is never wasted. If you believe that one gentle word can heal a broken moment. The end.